here in the last 15 minutes and even yesterday, but you have been so kind and patient, and I couldn't be more thrilled to connect with you. Before we get started with our interview questions on the first episode of season 2 of UMFS Live, I want to thank everyone for tuning in. I also want to thank everyone for making our first season a huge success. Last season, UMFS Live, we interviewed many different people, including alum from our Child and Family Healing Center. And we just want to thank everyone for making that a success and then coming back and seeing us for season 2. This season, we're going to start off with Adalay. We're going to talk about, obviously, what this organization does, UMFS, but also the many different aspects of it. And Adalay has a lot of knowledge in one particular area, which is family first prevention services. So we'll talk a little bit about that. But first, Adalay, let's talk about you. Let's get to know you before we get into the technical program details. So welcome. I appreciate it. Can I just start and ask, how long exactly, Adalay, have you been at UMFS, and how did you come to know the organization?
Okay. Well, first of all, Nate, just thank you for this opportunity. And certainly the setbacks don't concern us, in terms of technology. Flexibility and resilience are the words, of the day and of the century. And as long as we continue to do that, we'll move in the right direction.
Well, thank you.
But I just want to say that it's quite an honor and a privilege, for me to have this opportunity just to share my experience here. So I've been privileged to serve families and children really in a variety of roles here at UMFS for the past 32 years. I joined the staff in 1989, and I truly do believe that my journey here was divinely orchestrated. At the time, I was working in the public sector. I was a child protective services worker, and I just by happenstance one day came across an advertisement for a part-time adoption social worker position in the Tidewater office of UMFS. I wasn't really looking for a job at the time. I was employed full-time as a child protective services worker, but I was really intrigued when I read the ad. And so I applied for the position, got called in for an interview, and met with the director. And what she shared with me that day was, she said that the majority of the children that we're serving right now in the child welfare system who need adoption are children of color. Many of them are African American, biracial children. And what we've experienced, she said, was that when we're recruiting for homes, we don't have a lot of families that are coming forth to say that they're interested in adoption. And at that moment, sitting in that interview, I said, this is where I need to be. Because there's something that I bring that I can add in terms of being a solution to that challenge. So that's how I got introduced to UMFS back in 1989.
Well, and we're so glad you did, and we're so glad that you had that experience and that you've been with us ever since. And if we can back up even further, what was the inspiration? What you said it was a bit of a divine calling, but what inspired you really to pursue service work in the first place?
Nate, I would have to say that that it was my formative years, for sure. My early life experiences really served as the inspiration for me to be involved in social work and in a helping profession. I'm the oldest of 7 siblings, and I just had some really inspiring foundational lessons that I learned in my childhood. As the oldest, I was really taught that, and all of us were, that faith and family came first. That's what our parents taught us. And so the lesson in my household was, we always stick together. We show up for each other, and we share what God has blessed us to have, no matter how abundant or how meager it is. And those weren't just really words, those were our family values. And growing up, I really witnessed firsthand, the beauty of a village coming together to support others when they were in need. It was a common occurrence, even though there were 7 siblings, And we lived in a 3-bedroom house. It was very common for us to have cousins who came to live with us, to have neighborhood kids who came to live with us, to have the kids of acquaintances come live with us, all very temporary, for different and varied and sundry reasons. But they lived with us on a temporary basis, and when those reasons were resolved, then they went back home to their families. And so, you know, that really made an impression, upon me, that it really is about community. And we do need to show up, for each other and just be that security blanket. Sometimes people just need it, for a short period of time, and then they can get back to the work, that is theirs. So I would say that, that really was the catalyst for my journey, into this profession. My mom really was my inspiration as well, Nate, because her mom died when she was 6 years old. And so family was of the utmost importance to her. Family was paramount. And we heard that, my whole life, family is everything. Family comes first. And I remember her telling me, I was probably around 12 years old. And she said, if anything ever happens to me or your dad, if we become incapacitated in some way, or God forbid, if we were to pass away, what I want you to know is that you should fight really hard for your siblings to stay together. And I remember hearing that and taking that very, very seriously. And at the same time praying, God, please don't let anything happen to them early on. And thank God that, they lived until we were all, fully matured. But it just really impressed and inspired upon me that if I have the opportunity to help promote connections and talk about the importance of siblings, because my siblings are now, everybody's in their early 50s to 60s, the 7 of us. And our bond and relationship those have been the strongest relationships that I've had my entire life. And so that's what I want, for everybody, to experience in some shape, way, or form. So those were my formative years, and that's what inspires me, about this work.
It's amazing to hear you talk about that. You hit on so many points, and the most recent one you just hit on was that relationship aspect and that opportunity to have that community within your own family, and the importance of building that relationship and having those connections. And of course, keeping that sibling group together. We hear a lot about that when we speak in terms of foster care and adoption, is wanting to keep the children together for so many reasons. But to know that you have those lived experiences and those lived influences, I think, obviously anyone who knows you sees that passion and the reason why you do such a nice job. I mean, excellent job. Nice doesn't even really qualify. An excellent job building those relationships, because you really live it. And I'm so happy that you shared that with us. I want to know, you touched on it a little bit, with that though, this can be difficult work. What keeps you coming back?
Wow. What keeps me coming back, Nate, is just that fundamental belief that, every child should have that circle of security. That a child should not have to be separated from their family, their friends, their neighborhood, their natural support systems in order to receive the services that they might need at any given point. So when I started my social work career, it's been, 36 years now, 37 years. I thought by the time I started thinking about, retirement, that there would have been a lot of strides in our industry that would have allowed me really to work myself out of a job, that we would have resolved a lot of the, the social ills and situations that we see. Well, that was in 1989. I was fresh out of grad school. It's now 2021 and still not so much, there's still work to be done. And so that's what keeps me coming back. The fact that that we still have a lot of work to do. Our greatest aspiration organizationally is that every child in Virginia, will have a team of unwavering champions, that they'll have the tools that they need to be successful, so that they can become resilient adults. So we still have work to do. And I feel like, all the programs that we have, from our community-based to our residential to our school programs, that's our charge. That's what we're all working towards, organizationally, so that we can leave an impact, on our community that lasts generation over generation.
That's amazing. And yes, there is always work to be done. We know that here, and it's important work. And with the importance of that, let's talk about you personally, not just in your professional impact, but what is this work? How does it impact you, Adalay?
I think that, at least for me, I think about, what's my purpose? What was I really put here to do? What's the impact that I'm supposed to have and to make in this short time that we have? Because in the larger scheme of things, our time is really short. And so, Nate, I have just been profoundly blessed and humbled and really inspired to spend my career in a ministry, because that's what this has been for me, a ministry that really just fuels my passion. I shared a little earlier about, the lessons that I learned early on, about the importance of family. So that has come full circle for me in the opportunities that I have every day to be impactful in some way. When I was providing direct care, I saw it immediately in terms of the families that I was working with, and as I've had the privilege and the honor to move around in a lot of different positions in our organization, but in all those positions, whether it's serving as an administrator, serving externally in our community on committees that are shaping, what's happening in child welfare and shaping the services that impact children and families, to be able to have a voice, added from the community, from a personal lens and also from a professional lens in terms of what we've provided in the community to families since 1900, 121 years later, right. Starting as an orphanage, but then really listening to the community and finding out what services were needed and reforming and shaping our services to respond to that community need. It's just been phenomenal.
It has. And, I had the opportunity, as we were celebrating 120 years last year, to do some research and really dig in. I mean, that's the nature of what we provide has changed so much. And to your point, there's so much work to still be done, and it continues to evolve. And that's going to lead us up here to the questions here as we round out the interview about Family First Prevention Services Act. Again, I want to thank everyone who's joining us live and everyone who's going to tune in later to watch. I'm joined with Adalay, and it's just so great to have this conversation. So before I get to PSA, Family First Prevention Services, tell me, Adalay, how do you recharge to come back after, some difficult spells at work or some things that might be extra challenging, more so than usual? How do you recharge?
Nate, that's a really good question. And I remember, family used to ask me that, just because of, like you say, the nature of the work that we do. And it's true, some days it can be challenging. The stories can be really heartbreaking, but honestly, the rewards far outweigh any of the challenges that we experience. For me, I'm inspired and really recharged every day just by the stories of the youth that we've served in our programs. Stories like young people who are now, who may have come through our foster care program, or may have received, services in our day school program or in our residential program. And, and some of these kids now are adults who are social workers and teachers and child advocates, and they're using their lived experiences to support and encourage others. I'm inspired by the families that we work with, who use their life experiences to advise us as an organization and share with us what it's like to experience our services from the lens of a parent. I'm inspired by those parents who use their experiences to go on and mentor other families and give back in that way. And then I'm just really inspired by the phenomenal staff that we have here at UMFS in all of our programs, who on a daily basis, they use their gifts to support and help families and the youth that we serve to strive and to meet their needs and their goals.
It really is a team here, but a community of beyond just our team at UMFS, but our volunteers, our donors, everyone. It's a team
Yes.
of unwavering champions. And I want to be mindful of your time, but do you have time for a few more questions?
Yes, Nate.
That's wonderful. So let's shift gears then. We've been alluding to FFPSA. Can you, in
Yes.
general terms, tell us what the Families First Act is and why it's important?
Absolutely. So, in just really simple terms, the Families First Prevention Services Act is the most significant reform that's happened in the child welfare policy in the last 40 years. So the act redirects federal funds that were previously spent for foster care. So these funds were only used to support children coming into care. It paid for their foster care stay and for the services that they needed while they were in care. Well, now those funds have been redirected to provide prevention services. And so the goal is to, whenever possible, not to move kids out of their homes, but to keep them safely with their families out of foster care. So it provides opportunities for us to really strengthen families, keep kids safe, reduce the need for foster care when it's safe to do so. And I just can't tell you how phenomenal that really is, Nate, because it moves from a treatment model, a model where we're going in and assessing that, what's wrong with the family, to a prevention model that says, if given the right supports and resources, this family can strive and maintain, but they may need some additional support in order to do that. So to be able to put those dollars into really supporting families it's what we've been waiting for in child welfare, as I said, for over 40 years now.
Well, and you talked about a little bit earlier in our interview about, thinking that one day you might work yourself out of a job, and maybe this act here is part of that transformation that you and so many others have been working diligently to make sure that we get some of these services in place so that there's opportunity on the front end. It's, and less reaction on the back end. Is there a specific set of resources or something very tangible that is included with FFPSA? Not so much about the legislation, but is there something about the resources that excites you?
Absolutely. So what's exciting, again, is that the priority is on keeping families together. But it's keeping them together, investing in evidence-based prevention services. So it's investing in services that are known to work. And so, Nate, early, I mentioned it, early in my career, a child had to leave their home to receive services. And when that happens, many, of the kids that came into foster care, they spent, years in care. Some kids actually aged out of foster care, without returning home or achieving permanency. And so now, because the primary focus is on maintaining those family connections, I'm excited because we know that the outcomes are going to be better for these kids. And so it focuses on, on young people and families being able to get services like mental health counseling in their home, or parenting classes, but again, in their home, or substance abuse services. These are many of the reasons or the factors that trigger, a child protective service complaint and bring a kid into care. But be able to directly focus on those issues by providing those preventative services to families is just really phenomenal. And so we're looking forward to the outcomes that this is really going to bring. I'm just excited about it because I know, and I think it was Alex Haley who said, in every conceivable way, the family is, it is the bridge to the past, but it's also the connection to the future. And so what we'll be able to do here is to see those healthy family connections remain, in place. And also, we know that the outcomes will be that, kids will be healthier in terms of their child development, and that they'll have that sense of belonging. They'll be able to maintain their cultural identity. They won't have to leave the schools that they're familiar with and their support systems to get the services that they need. So, just looking forward to what this is going to bring.
Well, your passion, Adalay, is palpable. It's so appreciated. It's genuine. It's authentic, and it just excites me as a person who is just helping share this message, to hear your excitement and to know that this could really be a next step in terms of helping young people and their families on their journey. It almost seems impossible to ask this question as I was going to round out the interview, because you are just so invested and such a wonderful example of an unwavering champion. But I'm going to ask, if you hadn't chose this work, Adalay, what career might you have pursued?
Yeah, that's a good question, Nate, because truly, working in human services, it has been my calling, my passion. As I said earlier, my purpose. I think in retrospect, if I had pursued a different career path, I probably would have pursued a career in law and been a public defender. And it wouldn't that wouldn't be a far cry, from the work that I think that I'm doing now, just a different platform for it.
Wow. Well, I can't thank you enough for your time today, for everything you do, for, 30 plus years at UMFS and then in other capacities of human services. I've really enjoyed on a personal level working with you over these past several days to get us going to kick off season 2 of UMFS Live. We had some technical difficulties, but we overcame, and this has been a wonderful opportunity to speak with you, and I know that our audience appreciates it too. So I want to thank you, Adalay. I hope you have a wonderful day. For all of our viewers who are watching live and who might tune in later, don't forget, we are going to be live every week right here on Instagram. You will also be able to view these videos after they've published on our Instagram page and on YouTube. Be sure to follow along on our Facebook page as well, and visit our brand new website at umfs.org. Anyone who's visited the site in the past will notice that it's got a brand new user-friendly look. So again, thanks for everyone for tuning in. Thank you, Adalay, and we'll see everyone next week.
Thank you, Nate.
You're welcome. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.